Hi everyone, this is Dr. Malego, and in this video I'm going to be talking about co-planning and co-teaching. This is a video that is created for one of my graduate classes, but I'm just putting it on YouTube, so if you stumbled upon it and you're not in the class, just know that it's in the context of the class that I'm teaching. As we're talking about co-planning and co-teaching, we can think about teaching as a collaborative profession even more globally, bigger than just co-planning and co-teaching. We think about the students that are in the schools, and students learn from many adults, not just one teacher. I can think about when I was in school, not only did I have, say, my fourth grade teacher, but I also had the band teacher and, other teachers that I interacted with. And so just like I did in school, and certainly you did too, your students are going to interact with a lot of different adults in the school building. Collaboration also helps meet diverse learning needs. If you are, whatever subject you're teaching, whatever your discipline is, there are areas that aren't your specialty. Maybe you're not a reading specialist. Maybe you are not a special education teacher. Maybe, any other types of things, supports that our students receive, or aspects of their diverse learning needs. We have to involve other teachers in those areas for sure to be able to really reach the needs of the students. Effective instruction also often requires shared expertise. So my content area is music education. And it'd be very hard for somebody to just walk in and teach music classes if they didn't already have that expertise. You don't want me to teach a math class because math just isn't my forte. I don't have the expertise that I would need to be able to teach, especially advanced math classes. So we have to rely on each other and collaborate with each other if we're going to meet the needs of the students, because they need to learn a lot of stuff, right? So you can pause this video and take a moment and think about one of your students and think about, besides you, who are the other teachers or professionals that that student interacts with over the course of a school day or a school week. We can also think about saying our students instead of my students. And I know I'm totally guilty of that all the time. I'll talk about my student this, my student that. And it's really not, they don't belong to me. They are our students, that we're all working together as a team to help the students get to the next level. If we're going to co-teach, we really need to co-plan first. And I cannot emphasize that enough. And I'll talk about that more as we go through. But it really is foundational. You've got to have shared instructional goals and shared responsibility for the teaching. The planning of accommodations and supports before you start instruction is also critical, because if that is planned ahead of time, it's not like it's proactive rather than reactive. And people don't like the reactive stuff, right? So if I'm a student and I'm struggling, now here comes the help. That feels worse maybe than oh, look, they're prepared for me. They know that I need this, whatever it is, they know that I need this. The teacher knows that already, and I feel maybe welcome here because that planning has happened ahead of time. If co-planning doesn't happen, co-teaching is reactive. So I had a few years ago the opportunity to co-teach with one of my colleagues, and the more the classes that we were more intentional about planning how we were exactly going to co-teach, those were much smoother, rather than kind of playing off one another, which, we interact well with each other. So it was easy for us to sort of read each other and know, like, okay, maybe I should step in and talk about this a little bit, or I could, he could do that or whatever. But it would be reactive, and that wasn't as flawless. It wasn't like this graceful dance of weaving back and forth between who's teaching and who's not. And, it felt a little bit clunky at times if we didn't take the time ahead to plan. When we did, it was much better. So take a moment, again, pause the video and think, how can we design instruction so all students can participate successfully? So again, we're talking about how can we, multiple people, design instruction ahead of time, do that co-planning for the students. When we talk about co-teaching, so we have to plan for these models, but these are ways that co-teaching happens. And I think it's valuable to have them here in a table, because when it's almost like a menu, like you can select based on what purpose you have. So one teach, one assist. Maybe the person who's kind of leading the teaching at that moment, they might have more expertise in that area, or it just might be like their turn to do it, to kind of lead. The other person's maybe going around the classroom helping out with students who might need, just a little, keep them on task, or things like that. Well, the other teacher is kind of leading teaching. Station teaching is where teachers are teaching different things in the room. So you might have just two teachers, maybe you have a student teacher, maybe even have two student teachers, and you might have multiple stations the students travel around to and get to experience different topics or different activities depending on what each teacher is doing. Parallel teaching might look similar if you were just like didn't know what was going on, you're just looking at the classroom. But parallel teaching would be the teachers are teaching the same thing, they just have smaller groups. So each one takes half the class and they teach the same thing, just lowers that student to teacher ratio while they're teaching the content. Alternative teaching is where one teacher is working with a small group. So you might think of things like, if there's a math class and you have the students who struggle in math like me, and maybe we're going to go to a special table and the teacher's going to work with us a little more intently, give us some supports that we need while the rest of the class is doing something else. And then team teaching is where both are teaching together, kind of pretty much 50-50, evenly weaving together. And that's a true art, really. To team teach well, you've got to have a lot of trust in each other, and that planning has to have happened really well ahead of time. And but it's a great experience to do if you get the chance to do it well. So each of those approaches serves a different purpose. We want to make sure that we match the strategy to the need when we are co-teaching. So I have some examples here of things that you might be trying to do and maybe which approach of co-teaching might work best. So when you're thinking about planning instruction, thinking about what it is that you're actually trying to do can help out a lot. Effective collaboration when we're planning is really important. And we're thinking about not one of these models being better than the other. We're thinking about which model is right for what we're teaching today. And again, that's why that co-planning is really important, because if you just try to do these methods of co-teaching on the fly, you're not going to have the table set up, you're not going to have the stuff in the right spot. So you really do need to think about that ahead of time. Effective collaboration supports learning, and it starts again with co-planning. The roles need to be intentional. And again, that goes back to the past couple slides that we looked at. We need to know who is leading instruction, who's doing what, and that's going to help everything be done smoothly. Each of the co-teaching models support different instructional goals, and collaboration helps create access for diverse learners. We cannot believe that we are the one who is the best person to teach every single person every single thing. Sometimes we need to step back, be humble, and realize someone else has a skill in an area, and then that's really going to help the students, which we want the students, obviously, to be succeeding. Taking a moment here to reflect which of the co-teaching approaches seems to be the most useful for your professional context and why. Thanks so much for taking time to watch this video. I hope it was helpful for you.